Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I hope you're well. I'm well. Bit of a damp, grey, dark day again. It's that time of year, so I'm getting on with things indoors, as always. And today I thought, because I haven't talked about our low spend, no spend year for a little while, let's tuck back into that subject. And I thought actually it would be quite a good idea today if we have maybe a bit of a review of how things are going, what else we can be doing, and a really important subject which I'll come on to at the end. So, how have you all done? Now, obviously things have really changed over the course of this year. When I started this series back in, was it February or March? I can't remember. Obviously I didn't have a crystal ball. I had no idea just how dramatically things are going to change this year. I know things are tight for people pretty much all over the world. I think inflation is everywhere, but in particular for us in the UK, the effect of Liz Truss's premiership for all of, 42 days, interest rates, etc, etc. So yeah, obviously I had no idea any of that was going to happen, and that might have affected how you have, if you were up for the challenge and have been doing the challenge, it might have affected where you're at now. Hopefully, if you did come along for the challenge, actually having had no spend for months and months and months on end, hopefully it's given you a little bit of a buffer to take you through this next few months. So from a personal point of view, yeah, I've been really good. I've been really good. So I haven't called it no spend exactly because there has been expenditure, but outside of bills, the bills we have to pay for all those basic services and amenities, lights, heating, water, council tax. For me, there's a few things like the website, the PO box, my computer software, that sort of thing that I need for work. But yeah, outside of bills and outside of food, the idea is to just not spend money on anything. Think outside the box. I have managed, I feel like I need a pat on the back, I have managed not to buy any books this year. At all. Incroyable! I want a fanfare. I mean, I think that's got to be the first year of my life ever when I've not bought books for myself. I bought a few books for the shop, obviously, so I'm still getting my book buying kick, but nothing for me. And that's been great because in a way, it's sort of forced. It's forced the right word. It sort of forced me to make the most of what I've got on my shelves already, because there was a tranche of maybe about 50 or so. I counted them up, I think it was 50 because I was thinking it's one a week. There's about 50 books on my shelves that aren't read. So it's focused my attention on reading those, and there have been a couple I've picked up and I've thought, do you know what, I really don't fancy it. It's something I bought ages ago. I don't think I ever will read it, excuse me, in all honesty. So you know what, take it to the charity shop, let them sell it and make a bit of money, let someone else enjoy the read. But yeah, that was great. So not a single penny spent on books, and rediscovering some lovely things on my shelves, enjoying making the most of, the pleasure of them. Obviously I didn't read all through the summer. I've mentioned this before, reading is a winter pursuit for me. All the ones that I've recently read have been redistributed either to community library or to my favourite charity shop. That they have a really good book section. It's expensive. It's not, one of you was mentioning you get 3 for £1 at yours. Are you kidding me? You can't even get 3 for £5 at mine. But it's a great charity. I massively support them. It's a local hospice. So some have gone to them. Others have gone to friends. It's lovely. So I've reduced my shelves a bit, great, before the move. I've thoroughly enjoyed things, given them away, passed them on, some will be resold, money for charity, and I haven't spent a single penny. Yay! So throughout the whole year, I haven't spent anything outside bills and food except for 2 tops, a couple of new cotton tops. One, I'm just trying to think when you'll see this. I think it's a top you might have seen already, but you'll see it in the next video. So it's a long sleeve, it's a winter top. It's cotton, but it's kind of slightly a brushed cotton. So my excuse for buying 2 new, well, charity shop, they were second-hand of course, and neither of them, I wouldn't have spent more than £5 on each. I can't remember exactly what it was. But that I actually needed them because throughout the course of this year, a couple of my tops they've shredded. You know, I spend a lot of time outside under blazing sunshine in my tops, sunlight on cotton. You know, over time it fades, it gets a bit threadbare, and then it starts to... I came home, I've got a really lovely top that I know loads of you like, and it's sort of like almost patchwork. It's about 4 different fabrics. Not patchwork like little squares, it's sort of a block here, the sleeve is in a different thing, the yoke is... I got home from the plot one day, took off my backpack, and as I took it off, the top just ripped completely, just ripped off me. Now, I know I could have, should have saved it, cut it up to make it into a pattern, and so I haven't got time for making clothes. Anyway, so the point is, I have spent about £10 this year outside of my bills and food. So for me, it's been a great, no, low spend year. And goodness me, I'm really glad because, well, a couple of things which I'll come on to, a couple of bills, one which was unexpected. So literally every single penny that's come in that is above that bills amount in my food allowance, I reckon I give myself about £500 a month, and that covers everything. My bills used to be 300 and they've gone up a little bit over 400 now. But yeah, anything over that £500 a month, I've put it away straight away. I've got different savings account. I've got 3. I've talked about this before. I won't go on about it too much again today. But between the 3 accounts, I've literally, let's say, you know, there's £30 extra that month. Yay! It's a tenner in each account. I have been very, very strict about that, and I'm glad because I had an unexpected bill. We'll come on to that. So yeah, that brings me up to sort of where we're at now. I hope you've been managing to, you know, resist. There have only been a couple of times when I've almost had something in my hand and nearly bought it. I'm a sucker for stationery, real sucker for stationery, and I think I was in a charity shop, I was browsing, and they had a load of lovely notebooks and bits and pieces in, and I was like, oh, I nearly did, and then I was like, Vivi, no, you don't need them, put them back. So yeah, I've been building my savings up, thank goodness. And I was just thinking, because we have in the UK that we've had, our fuel has gone up again. So it was the end of, I can't remember now, was it the end of September or end of October? Anyway, our fuel, the price cap has been moved up. In other words, the companies can charge us more, which I find criminal because they're making record profits, which just seems absolutely vile to me. So yeah, I thought good time to, let's just have a review of things. You know, let's have a little health MOT, not health, a finances MOT. So hopefully at the beginning of the year, you went through all your finances and you looked at things like all your direct debits, and hopefully you were brutal with yourself and said, you know what, I really don't need this subscription to a magazine, I don't need this subscription to, I don't know, gin club or whatever it is. So hopefully you kind of chucked all that stuff away and said, I don't need it, I'm not going to have it. But it may be that you had some subscriptions which had a while to run. So just do another little check on that. Just go through all your direct debits again and look to see if you've got subscriptions which are coming to the end. But the ones where you need to actively end it, actively cancel your subscription. Because a lot of things, they'll roll over and they'll just take the money from your account for another year. So if you have to end a subscription in writing, just think about that, get on top of that now. And perhaps it's things, excuse me, it may have been stuff that you started in January this year, when we were all a bit, slightly less daunted by, well, we didn't know what was going to happen this year, did we? And it might be that you've decided, you know what, we're not going to do that again, we can do without it. If that's the case, it might be worth, if you have a calendar or a desk diary, you might be someone who likes using phone reminders, put a reminder to yourself somewhere with good notice for it, maybe a couple of weeks in advance, that you need to put it in writing to that company that you want to cancel your membership, your subscription, whatever it is, when this period of membership ends, so you don't get caught out by being rolled over. So I've got some bullet points because I didn't want to forget anything today, because it always gets a bit convoluted, this stuff. So the other thing to think about, and Martin Lewis, good old Martin Lewis, in the UK, I don't know if you can get it elsewhere, but in the UK, his money, what's it called? The Money Show. I think it's just called The Money Show. Martin Lewis. He's back on telly. Yay! You can watch these things on catch up on hubs and stuff like that. I think it's ITV. If you go to the ITV hub on your computer, you can watch it for free. Yes, you have to watch the adverts. You can't skip adverts, but they have to get their revenue somehow. And he, a couple of weeks ago, last week maybe, he was talking about savings. Now, hopefully, and the reason I was mentioning that at the beginning about this year going pear-shaped, hopefully you have been saving. So hopefully at the end of the month, if you're paid monthly, or the end of the fortnight if you're paid fortnightly, however your income comes in, pension, whatever it is, hopefully you've had a sense of, actually I've got a little bit more left at the end of the month now. So hopefully you've been siphoning that off into savings. If you're wanting to at some point buy that big ticket item we were talking about, such as a new fridge freezer. I'm not going to talk about big screen TVs because that's not a necessary. You need your fridge and your freezer for your food. But yeah, if you've been saving, putting aside to hopefully make the most of, for example, we're going to have the, Black Friday sales at the end of the month. Hopefully you've got that little stash. Maybe you've been saving it because your mortgage provider allows you to pay a lump sum chunk extra each year, and like mine used to be, it was always January. Whatever it is, hopefully you've been setting aside. And you know what, even if it's £3 or £4 a week that you're not spending, because you're not buying a coffee on the way to work, you're taking packed lunches to work, even if it's just that £3 or £4, put it away, because if you leave it in your wallet or your purse, you'll fritter it. It'll go on something. So talking of savings, I have my 3 savings accounts. Is it 3? 1, 2, yeah, 3 savings accounts. And they all are for different jobs, different specific jobs. One is my, all the experts reckon you should try to have savings of 6 months worth of income, so that if you lose your job, you're covered until you find a new job. So I'm not up to 6 months yet, but it's on the way. I have a savings account, which is what we're going to talk about in a minute, which is self-insurance. And then I've got my fun fund. There's only 25 quid in the fun fund. I built it up for the trip to go and collect Auntie Teapot. It's not had anything else put into it yet. It's okay, it'll stay there. But what Martin was talking about the other day is, of course, interest rates have gone up. Those of you with mortgages, I feel for you. I really feel for you, because it's it's walloped up, hasn't it? But if you've got savings, now's the time to check what your savings rate is. So I've done this in the last couple of days, and like I said, I don't have a huge amount of money in savings, but by golly, those of us with the least money have to make our money work the hardest, don't we? If I'm going to get interest each month, if it's going to be a difference between I get £1.20 in interest or £3.40, of course. So I looked at all of mine. They were appalling rates of interest. I mean, less than 0.5%. So I've upgraded, changed, what have you. One of my accounts I was able to actually just, when I went into it, it said, would you like to upgrade to a better account? It's like, yeah. So I've done all of that with my savings accounts now. Great. So have a look at yours. Check how much interest you're getting. And it depends what sort of access you want, how frequently you're going to be saving. But go online and look, because there's tons of accounts out there. I think one of the best that Martin Lewis was talking about was about 4.5%, which is the best it's been for years. I mean, it's been sort of, I've got one account that was 0.2%. Crazy. So yeah, check out where your savings are. And even if it's just an extra 1 or 2%, and even if you've only got a few £100, you know, it's worth it, isn't it? So yes, check your direct debits. Does anything need cancelling? Can you get rid of something else? Make a note about when memberships and subs are coming to an end so that you can make sure you finally finalise them in writing if that's what's needed. Where are your savings? Think about, you know, trying to find, excuse me, a higher interest rate. Now, the other thing that I've done is, in the UK, the government is supporting everybody. It doesn't matter what your income is, doesn't matter how big your house is, how small your house is. Every household is getting a grant of £66 per month towards their fuel bills. So I'm with Good Energy, and they've been great. They've just done everything automatic. I haven't had to do anything. It's just all happened. They've kept me informed at all the stages. So I pay £80. I've rounded it up. I actually pay 79, but I'm going to say 80 for ease. I pay £80 every month for my fuel. I'm talking my gas and lecky. In the summer, historically, my bill has been more like 40, so I'm overpaying, actually from sort of mid-spring right through to middle autumn, nudging towards winter. Almost every month, that's an overpayment. And then as we go into winter, my £80 suddenly is an underpayment because my bill goes to like, you know, 100, 105. But all the credit I built up over the summer then is used to top it up. So throughout the year, that's enough. And what I like about that is it's the consistency allows me to budget. I know exactly how much money I need to live on each month. I need how much I need to have coming in order to pay those bills. So the first time the £66 happened, I thought it was going to be in addition to my 80. So I thought, in other words, it's going to be £146 paid to Good Energy that month. But it wasn't. The 66 came off my 80. So my direct debit was only £14.14. And I thought, well, that's mad, isn't it? Because I don't want to only pay £14 a month because I'll get used to it. And it's not realistic. So I rang them and I said, can you please put my direct debit up all the way to 146 instead of 80? And that means that I'm at the moment, the 66 comes off, so I'm still only paying 80. And then in the spring, when that government assistance ends, and like I say, this everyone is getting this. It's not means tested. You know, and I'm fortunate because it's a small home and it's manageable in terms of fuel. But, You know, there could be someone living in a mansion with 10 bedrooms. It's not going to touch it, is it? But then if you've got 10 bedrooms in a mansion, you're probably rich. Anyway, what will happen is in the spring, so in other words, throughout this winter, the amount I pay is going to stay at 80. So that when the grant finishes, I'll go from paying 80 per month to 146. But of course, hopefully I'll have built up some credit so that if the fuel prices go up again, I've built up a chunk of credit. Because over this summer, because we'd had a rise in April, this summer my bills, which would normally be around sort of 50, were suddenly sort of 60. So I didn't build up as much credit. Anyway, I'm just sort of mentioning that because that might be useful for other folk too. Rather than kind of going, whoopee, you know, I'm only paying 30 quid a month, you know, if you normally pay 96. I'm only paying 30. I would say resist the temptation to use it as a holiday. I would say up your direct, keep paying your normal amount so that in the spring, none of it comes as a shock. And that's something else I'm going to talk about with these two bills that happened in self-insurance. I've had two bills this month, big bills. One was for £100 and one was for £300. Now, the bill for 100 was expected, the bill for 300 wasn't. Have no fear, they've both been paid. The 300 bill, you know, I kind of wasn't worried about it. I knew I could pay it. I was miffed that I had to pay it because it was like, anyway, I'll explain that a little bit more. But the one for 100 was my boiler service. And again, it comes back to that thing of really, you know, knowing your finances and knowing what all your bills and your outgoings are. And if you didn't do it at the beginning of this year, naughty you, I did tell you, please do it at some point. It's well worth it. So I have got numerous bills are paid annually. The boiler service, the software for the computer, my website bill, my PO box bill, my insurance, various insurances, my ground rent, my maintenance fee for the building, all that. Anyway, so the way I deal with that is rather than getting the bill just now, 100 quid for the boiler, and going, oh, I've got to find 100 quid. I divide that 100 by 12, that's £8.33 per month. Divide by 12 as in for each month, that's £8.33. So I set aside £8.33 every month just for the boiler. So when the bill comes in, it's there. And £8.33 a month, you know, it seems manageable, doesn't it? I actually do £9 a month for it because that also then takes into account it might go up a little bit next year. It hasn't gone up for a few years. So I've done that across the board with all of those annual things that I pay. Every single month, I've got it on my pin board, how much does that come to amongst other bills. So every month into that savings account that's like for my 3 months of wages or whatever it is, that's, oh no, I've got 4 accounts, I've just remembered. So I've got this completely separate account that is just for annual bills, and I pay £170 into it every single month. It's quite a chunk of money, 170 every month, but that's everything throughout the year. That's all my big annual bills. And by doing that, I know, like I say, in terms of budgeting, I know that I need, it's a smidge over £400 now, £400 every single month, and that covers everything. That covers absolutely everything. It covers the known knowns. So then I had this big stonking £300 bill. When's this video coming out? I'll explain it. I'm going to explain it more in the next video. And like I said, I could meet the bill because I've been saving. I hated having to give away 300 quid, but you know. But this is what I talk about in terms of self-insurance. So one of those savings funds is specifically a sort of self-insurance, if you like. So it's money for buying a new computer if my computer dies, a new camera if my camera dies, a new sewing machine if my sewing machine dies, because these are all the things that help me to generate an income. But I also put into there just for other unexpecteds. So that, you know, I don't know, let's say my plumbing goes wonky, I get a leak somewhere, I've got that money set aside so I can get a plumber in to check things out if it's a job I can't do. So it is a form of self-insurance. I've always done it, always will. I'm really, really risk averse. People talk about this in terms of finances as well. I'm very risk averse. And I started properly doing this about 15 years or so ago, 12 years or so ago. And it came about because when I put the kitchen in, so the kitchen went in 18, 19 years ago, because I'm so risk averse, I'm one of those people insurers love, because they offer me insurance and I go, yeah, I better take it in case something goes wrong. I'm an insurer's dream. But they offered me this sort of extended warranty insurance type thing. They should just blooming warranty things for longer. Don't be selling me, you know, a £500 oven and telling me that it's only good for a year and that after that it might break. Sorry, that's not good enough. Anyway, so I got the oven, the fridge, the washing machine, the freezer, and I was paying something, but they were all done individually, and I kind of would think, oh, it's £8 there and £7 there and a £5 there, but they added up to about, I think it was about 35 quid a month. So over the course of a year, that's 420 quid to insure the appliances. I could buy a new fridge for, well, actually the new washing machine, I did replace the washing machine, and it was at that point I thought, 260 quid, new washing machine. So yeah, I think I'd been merrily paying them for about 5 years, and there was a conversation with someone else and it triggered it, and I worked out that I'd basically insured them over those 5 years. I'd spent over £2,000 to insure them. They hadn't cost £2,000. The 4 items hadn't even cost £2,000. Ridiculous. So from that point, I decided to self-insure for my appliances. Now, that can be a bit scary because to start with, there is no money. You have to build up your pot. And I would say, you know, maybe if all your appliances are 20 or 30 years old, to start self-insuring at that point would be maybe a bad idea because the likelihood of them dying is high. But I bought the new washing machine, and I know this is my third one, isn't it? That must be what it is. Yeah, and from that point I started to self-insure. So I don't put 35 away for the appliances anymore, but there is a little bit goes away just for that. So for example, with this big bill that came in, great, I'm self-insured. However, please bear in mind as well, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing with you what I do and what has worked for me. You have to make your own decisions about what will work for you. No comebacks. Things like, yes, pet insurance. So my beloved, hang on, I need a slurp. It's gone cold. It's alright. Bit of chamomile. My beloved Charlotte Bronte, my beautiful long dog, part deerhound, part whippet. Oh, loved her. Now, her insurance, she cost me £9 a month to insure. So what's that? 90 for 10 months, 99, let's call it 110 a year. Let's say over 10 years, that's £1,100. So worth it. Now, outside of the insurance, I would obviously pay, and I think this is the case for most sort of basic level insurance. On top of that, obviously, I paid for all her annual vaccinations, or her annual sort of flea and tick treatments, her annual worming, all those kind of maintenance things that we do for our pets. I paid myself. But thank goodness she was insured, because oh God, it was traumatic. She developed a tumour in her spleen, and the spleen is an incredibly vascular organ. And I hadn't palpated it, but anyway, cut a long story short, this tumour ruptured. Her blood pressure went through the floor. Rushed to the doctor, rushed to the vets, and the vets were like, she's not going to survive this. And I get emotional. They did the most amazing job. It was almost like a melon-sized tumour. But the thing is, because she's a long dog, they've got that sort of very high waist. They've got that big cavity in there. There was space for it. But anyway, long story short, God love her, she survived, and she survived the operation. She was such a sad girl for a few days. It must have been so sore for her. I was so much a fitter of leg in those days, because for the first few days going out for walks, I was carrying her down all the stairs, all 60 stairs. Now, in fairness, she was only about 22 kilos. She was like a miniature deerhound. But yeah, I would carry her down all the stairs, so all of that massive long incision right through all that the abdominal muscles. Anyway, the reason I was mentioning it is because, I mean, not only did she survive, she actually lived another 4 years after it. Literally, the vets there said, you know, enjoy your last... What is it about our pets? It's years ago. The vet at the time said, just enjoy your last few days with her. And I had a friend at the time, a bestie at the time, who was also a vet. I didn't use him, he's in a completely different part of London. But obviously I was on the phone telling him, once she was under the knife, I was telling him everything that was going on. And he said, Vivi, she's not going to survive it. I mean, he was kind, but he was blunt with me. Anyway, 4 years later, she was still going. Great girl. The reason I'm telling you all this is because over the course of all that treatment, surgery, follow-up, it was something like £4,500. Jeez. Now, if she wasn't insured, I wouldn't have been able to afford that. And the likelihood is, going into her vets with this now limp dog, her blood pressure's gone through the floor, she's basically just bleeding into her abdomen. And if the vet would have said, she doesn't really stand a chance, there's a slight chance, but it's going to cost you £4,500, I might have in that moment said, you know what, put her to sleep, euthanize her, because if you don't think she's going to survive anyway. So yeah, thank goodness for that insurance, because it gave her another chance, and wow, she took her chance. She took her chance and ran with it. So yeah, I think about self-insurance for things which are, smaller and less costly, like appliances, and which it's not going to be life and death if you don't have proper insurance. So, like with your car, obviously you have to have insurance for your car, don't you? And things like building insurance, I would never self-insure, because I would have to self-insure to the tune of how much the building is worth. I can't do that, that's another mortgage, of course not. But yeah, appliances, computers, things like that, I'm happy to self-insure these days. But it does mean, coming right back to our original point about a no-spend, low-spend year, it does mean that if you are going to go that route, that money has to be a priority every month. So every month, at the end of the month, when money comes in, whether it's from YouTube or the shop or wherever it is, it's all there, it's coming, great, I can see, it's 600 quid, great. Well, there's 400 quid for my bills. That's the first thing I do every time, because another month it might be, 440 has come in. that first 400, it always goes to those bills, and those bills include a sum that I set aside for my self-insurance of the computer, etc., every month. So every month, that's the first thing that's earmarked. So yeah, self-insure those small items if you want to, but if you do, that money is the first money to come out of your account and get saved elsewhere, so that you're never tempted to spend it. Because that's the other thing with self-insurance, is you have to be really disciplined, not just to put the money away in the first place, but to not take the money out and spend it on something else. If you're one of these people, if you get tempted by clothes or holidays or whatever it is, it might not be the thing for you, because you're more likely to dip into your savings, nick a bit from your savings for a bit of a jolly. I'm really disciplined. I'm like a nun with me money. I'm so disciplined. No, once it goes in that savings account, it's shut, it's locked, it's away. Don't touch it. So yeah, thank goodness I had money to meet that big bill. Sorry, I could hear my phone beeping with a message. I think we'll wrap it up there for today. That's enough in one day, isn't it? But I think it's a really good time, if you haven't done so already, give yourself a bit of a review of how your no spend year has gone. Have you been naughty? Have you messed up from time to time? You know, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to buy a book. Just say to yourself, okay, no more, no more. And you might be thinking about carrying on into next year, and you might think in terms of for next year, actually, you know what, we could do a bit better. We were still a bit wasteful this year. I'm not talking about, you know, living a monastic life and having no fun, of course not. It's just thinking about those things which are fripperies that you don't need, that, you know, 2 months later you'll have forgotten anyway, that they're basically just a waste of money. Look after your money and do something, you know, more important with it, which might be saving for, you know, a big ticket item. It might be saving for a weekend away. And it might quite simply be saving to just give yourself a bit of breathing space this winter when, yikes, it might get a bit tricky for a lot of us, mightn't it? There's always something we can cut back on. Well, for most of us. For some people, there's not. Let's not go that route. It's too maudlin. I'm just going to say instead, for now, cheerio. See you again soon. Yes, the next video, the next 2 videos are already filmed because it's a day of my life and it's in 2 parts, because you know I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so I will see you soon for the first part of that. But in the meantime, yeah, healthy, happy finances, everybody. We'll just get through somehow, eh? And stop picking things up in the shops that you don't need. You don't need it. You don't need it. Repeat after me. You don't need it. Alright, lovelies. Lots of love. Take care. See you soon. Cheerio.